Hello and welcome, Susanna Sweeney, accredited psychotherapist and Havening Techniques trainer as well as practitioner. In this brief video, I would like to introduce you to Havening Techniques. So what is Havening? Havening is what we call a psychosensory modality. Havening is not a therapy, it's not psychotherapy, it's a standalone piece, a standalone modality that very, very specifically targets issues in the way that I will introduce shortly. We use sensory signals in Havening, predominantly touch, in order to influence psychological processes. This Havening touch and the other interventions, which include eye movements, are all designed to aid the production of delta brainwaves. These delta brainwaves have the function of creating a lovely relaxing effect that makes our brain feel safe. This is very important for when we are processing trauma with clients because it keeps them nicely comfortable in the process. The relaxing effect also helps the brain when we absorb new information, and that piece is very helpful in resilience building with our clients. As well as the delta brainwave, you can see there are 4 other major brainwaves present in the human brain at different times. They all have different functions. You can see the delta brainwave is the slowest of them all. The other important brainwave for Havening is the gamma brainwave. So the gamma and delta brainwaves are nearly the opposite ends of a spectrum. The gamma brainwave is present during situations when we're exposed to some kind of danger or something that's perceived as threatening, and our brain has determined that survival is at stake. So we must get ready to defend ourselves. There is some sense of danger around. The delta brainwave, we've already mentioned this lovely sense of safety. It's okay, it's safe. And each of these brainwaves result in different neurochemical processes. So let's look first at what happens when we have a gamma brainwave present. So the gamma brainwave, you can see it under number 2, is produced in situations where we have a threatening event. This event has a meaning of some kind of loss of attachment, something that's very important to us that we are attached to is under threat. Also required is a certain vulnerability in the neural landscape at this point that makes us likely to encode this memory in a particular way. And the sense of inescapability, so it feels like you have no control, you can't get away from this. And what's set in motion then with the gamma brainwave appearing under these particular circumstances is an outpouring of stress neurochemicals like cortisol, noradrenaline, which will keep pain levels low, and also dopamine, which is crucial in learning. Under number 3, you can see then the very, very specific thing that happens with these neurochemical processes. AMPA receptors will be what's called potentiated on the cell surface in the lateral amygdala. Potentiated means they will be increased in number and in permanence. And this happens by anchoring them to the cell surface with the help of phosphate molecules, which are the red guys here in my image, anchoring the green guys to the cell surface. The end result of that is what we call traumatic encoding of these memories, even though it happens in all situations, major and minor trauma, this particular principle is always the same. And it results in memories which are designed for permanence. So that means the memory is always easily accessible at the slightest trigger that appears. the biological function of that is that we never forget this dangerous event and that we can develop skills then to avoid it in future, or so nature hopes. Also very characteristic for these particular types of memories is the high emotional charge that these memories carry. The idea here is that they will be flagged for high attention, that we will always deal with these types of triggers first because they're crucial to our survival. And hence this encoding involves flight, fight, freeze, defensive rage responses with a huge emotional charge usually behind it. Well, thankfully, these memories are not permanent. They are designed to be permanent, but they can actually, with the help of havening, be taken apart relatively easily. So under number 1, what we do is we invite imaginal recall. And this imaginal recall brings forth a memory that has to be cleared. We then produce the lovely delta brainwave under number 2. We do this with havening touch or any of the other interventions that we use. We then get an outpouring of other helpful neurochemicals, some of them real feel-good neurochemicals, such as serotonin and oxytocin. Under number 3, you can see what happens as the end result of these neurochemical processes is that these AMPA receptors are depotentiated. That means they are reduced in number, they're reduced in permanence, they slide on the cell surface and are ultimately reabsorbed into the cell and recycled. And on the very right-hand side, you can see that the traumatic survival responses are delinked from the particular memory. The emotional charge will drop right down. The person starts feeling safe, and the memory will be filed away as an ordinary memory. The priority levels will have been changed on that, and hence the emotional charge is gone. And because in havening, we have really peeled this process down to its very, very essentials and the actual neurochemical essence of what happens, we can apply these very same processes that we use to many, many different issues. And the list I'm going to give you now is by no means exhaustive. Let's start with fears and phobias that have the same type of encoding. Anxiety usually has an accumulation of these types of encodings at the bottom of it. So the same with low mood and depression, with low esteem, low confidence. Eating disorders, very important, of course, as we move to naming issues with more severity, that the practitioner is appropriately trained and qualified to support the release of these encodings. OCD behaviors, weight loss, psychiatric disorders, things like sexual dysfunction that can be very difficult to treat. Any type of addiction will also have the same underlying encoding. So does chronic pain, so do toxic emotions, and even conditions like chronic fatigue syndrome, some other autoimmune diseases can be improved by removing the stress underneath them. And very, very useful, of course, in resilience building and for high performance coaching. There are many coaches in the community that predominantly use that side of the skill set. Thank you very much for watching. I hope this was helpful in understanding what havening is.